The At Your Insta podcast is brought to you by Comic Town. Check them out at www.comictown.net or search for Comic Town Gaming Center on Facebook. Hello, and welcome to At Your Insta. My name is Morgan, and I'm here with Dave.
Hello.
And Mike.
Hello.
And we have another fun-filled, wonderful episode for you guys this week. Hope you enjoyed your time off. We certainly did. Some of us were more, entrepreneurial than others, I guess. Some of us may have made some cash over the break, and we might bring that up. We might be talking about it. I don't know. Could be something.
It wasn't me.
I mean,
it was me.
Everyone knew already it wasn't me.
Oh.
So.
Wow. Yeah, that's true.
But we have a few community topics, and then we have a ton of competitive stuff to sort of talk about, and then kind of wrap everything up at the end. Talk about what's happening over the weekend. Some big local stuff's happening, so we definitely want to talk about that. So let's hop right in and go to our community segments. So first and foremost, one of the GPs that has happened recently. When was the GP Chiba? Do you remember?
When was it?
Or when is it? Or when was it?
It was the weekend of
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. Okay.
Yeah.
So it was a bit of a adventurous GP, for lack of a better term, I guess. And it was run by Haruya, correct?
Yeah, it was run by Haruya. You may be familiar with the very distinct sleeves.
Yes, the very very happy sons.
And Tomohiro Saito is the CEO of that company. So it's obviously very big in Japan, really very big everywhere. I mean, they have a growing pro team as well. So
that's very true. But they obviously ran the GP, and they had a very, some might say, expensive GP. It was $100 for GP registration. That is, something we have seen before, but typically we see that at the, higher echelon of registration, where you have VIP packages and things like that. Well, it was kind of like that in certain ways. Basically, this $100 got you access to the GP, and but also got you some pretty neat benefits, some that you would probably see in a VIP package. So you got limited snacks from what you told us, Dave?
Yeah, unlimited snacks. So unlimited snacks and water for the whole weekend.
Sounds great.
I believe even if you didn't make day 2 of the GP, you still had access to that, which is pretty awesome. Because I don't know about you guys, but there are a lot of tournaments where I go and I just don't have time to get lunch or eat a snack or something like that. And usually by the end of the day, I'm just completely run down. So having everything right there is pretty awesome.
Now there was also a what they called the tatami area, or it was basically a resting area, sort of a decompressor, decompression chamber from your high pressure games of Magic that you could kind of go to. And we've again seen these with VIP registration, but this was the default, which is an awesome thing to have, basically. And I know that a lot of people really benefit of having a dedicated space where they can go in between matches and just hang out and not have to be out on the floor. So yeah, this is kind of the big selling points of why this registration was, as much as it was, basically.
Well, I think the biggest thing, and I talked about this in an article from the GPU, is that they were able to open up 500 free entries for students, which I think is really awesome. And this is kind of a model that no other TO has done that we've seen before. So you're charging everybody a little bit more, but you are making up for that by giving them some perks. But by charging them a little bit more, you're making up for these 500 free slots that are going to students. And that's awesome that you could have the younger players or maybe the people that are just starting out or coming up have access to go to a GP like that. And I would imagine a lot of people in Japan, they're not going to be able to travel maybe outside of Japan for GPs. So they only get, a couple per year, maybe. So opening that up, for some of the newer players, or maybe some people that don't really have the disposable income, to spend on that kind of stuff it's pretty awesome, and I think that's going to help foster, just a growing community. That we've already seen it explode in Japan, but I think that's a really good way to keep it going.
Yeah, just reading some of the other, just in this article, some of the small things. But granted, the snack thing has me. I'm not gonna lie. There is some extra amount I would pay on a GP if I just knew that in between every round you could just go get to eat or drink whatever you wanted.
Yeah.
So, just saying, throwing it out there to whatever prospective GP organizers maybe listening. But also some things like having extra rooms set aside even for luggage, like luggage check. So if you had to leave directly from the GP to go to a flight, you had an area to bring your luggage in, which is cool for people who definitely don't have a vehicle. They've come in, they've traveled, and they have luggage with them, and they have to carry. That's such a small thing, but I've actively never seen it at a GP.
Yeah, it's a real nifty idea.
So I don't know. This is I certainly don't want to say I hope this is the start of seeing $100 tournaments. We're getting there either way, though. If they are going to keep going up, things like this, coming stateside would be very enjoyable to see.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I would be okay paying more for GPs if I felt like I was getting something in return. If I'm just paying more and more and getting a crappy GP promo and nothing really else,
wait,
a
you're
playmat.
not excited about your progenitus?
That or my 75th playmat that I get for free.
Yeah, but I know if I got hot stone massage when I scrub out a day 2, then I'm all in.
Yeah, if you offer me some was that Reiki massage? Yeah, if that's on the table, then sure, I'll do it.
No, you're on the table.
Well, that's true. You have me there.
So we're not actually going to talk about anything the results of the GP, but I thought this was pretty cool to touch on.
So if something that exactly mirrored this was offered in a tournament in the U.S. that was drivable to, that you could easily get to, would you guys do it?
If I was paying $100 for that, but I knew that they were opening up 500 slots for students, yes.
Okay.
If I'm paying $100 and they're not opening those slots, no.
Okay.
But I think I'm willing... And this is just based off my experience and my career, but I think IAB would be more willing to pay more money to open it up to students. So,
what about you, Dave? Kind of along the same line.
I wouldn't go out of my way. If it was a tournament that I was interested in going to, I would.
Yeah, this isn't out of your way.
I wouldn't turn it down because of the price. Put it that way. I think it would be worth it. But I'm not going to be like, hey, you know what? I wasn't going to go to this, but now that they're offering all this free stuff, I think I'm going to go. So probably not. But it would make it easier to swallow the entry fee that we've continuously seen going up and up over the years.
Without any sort of added benefit.
It's easier to swallow the entry fee because you have so many delicious beverages.
That's true.
Yeah, exactly.
You kind of can see your entry fee there laid out before you on the table. But I would have to
get my money back.
I would have to probably lean towards Mike. I would say that if there were if people that were students, did not have the funds to attend this GP, got the benefit of being able to go, for me paying more, then I think that is something that, as a community shows a real, strength in us, that we are willing to, chip in, so that us as a whole can be a better group. By having more people in it and having more people experience the game that we love. So I think that's a really great idea to make sure that everyone gets to play Magic, especially if you are, in a higher learning and just don't have the funds. I think it's really good to kind of give, basically, in that particular instance.
I will say there's some hypocrisy to this, it being a legacy GP, but they really need this entry fee. It's why, if you're so poor, why do you have a legacy deck?
So for legacy, it's not about what cards you own; it's about the people you know.
That is true.
So I won't, accuse anyone that participated in the tournament that was a student of actually owning these cards and or anything like that. But it's easy enough to borrow a deck a lot of the times, even if it is legacy. But yeah, I think it was a sweet idea, and I think it should be encouraged, and I hope it's something that we see over in the U.S. And Dave has some closing remarks.
Oh, I was just gonna say. I mean, that's the best way to keep this thing going. I mean, we all love this game, and the way to keep it going and keep people interested is allow
It's
these
like the
younger
cigarette companies hook the youngins.
Yeah, hook the youngins, get them in there. No, but I mean, like seriously, you could be like maybe somebody who's never played in a GP, or maybe they're not even that competitive. I'm sure they're more likely to go if you say, "Hey, you can get in for free by showing your student ID." They'd be like, "Hey, you know what? I'll give this a shot. Maybe I'll like it." Then maybe maybe that like lights a fire under me. Like, you know what? This was really fun. Like, I'm really interested in playing competitive Magic now, and this is something I want to do.
To be fair, if they started doing it that way, where it's like you got like a discount for your ID, I mean, I kept my college ID for literal years just getting the movies
whatever.
cheaper. So
yeah, I mean, I don't
do that for GPs as well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how they verify that, but yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
No, I know.
But yeah, I mean, I think it was a really unique, interesting thing that they did, and I hope to see more of that in the future.
I agree. So let's move on. We'll go over to the F&M promo. We have an update through February. And man, they're just hitting out of the park with these. I mean, just such great cards that have really come out of this program. I'm very proud that they keep doing this. It really encourages people to get out there and play some Magic. So Dave, I know you're thrilled about this. What's February's F&M promo going to be? That's my birth month. I'm going to go in there. I'm going to try to earn this.
I know. I want to get 4 of these. So February's F&M promo is Fortune's Favor.
Oh, that just tearing up the all formats. Just an all-star.
Yeah, this one
literally have blossoming defense as a standard and modern playable card, but no, Fortune's Favor.
Well, that wasn't in the same set though. I think this had to be from Eldritch Moon.
Sure, because arbitrary rules, I assume.
No, I think like the next one would be Kaladesh.
Oh, so they have to pick one from an exact because that's what they've shown as.
Well, they could have done like Incendiary Flow or something like that. I don't know.
There's
anything.
Obviously tons of better cards that they could have printed. But is that an actual thing? Like, am I just insane? Have they stated that they have to pick a card from each set going forward?
Yeah.
Okay. Unless they step out of their bounds and pick like modern playable cards and stuff like that.
Right. Which they did that was the last year when they had Serum Visions and Path to Exile.
Right.
You mean when people cared?
Yeah.
True.
It's
fact.
Yeah. It's been bad. So the next 3. So this month's is Call the Bloodline. Yep. Noose Constrictor. Saw Fringe play.
Sure, but that's also from Eldritch Moon, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So how many they do?
They have Fiery Temper and Call the Bloodline.
Okay. So they do about 2 per set, I guess.
Yeah, roughly.
But they also had Rise from the Grave.
Rise from the Tides.
Rise from the Tides, yes.
Yeah. There was a really good article on MTG Goldfish that talked about just kind of the history of F&M promos and like how the last couple of years it's just been pretty bad.
Here's what we have had this year. Nissa's Pilgrimage, January. Clash of Wills, February. Smash Smithereens, March. All 3 of those were Origins.
Yeah.
And think about that for a second. Like, think about how many sweet uncommons we had from Origins, and like those are the ones that got
Smash Smithereens is a good pick.
It's fine, but like
I'm just saying, like it's a pick that sees play in other formats. The other 2 are garbage.
So we had 3 from Origins.
Then Blighted Fen,
Zendikar,
Goblin War Chief, because of Eternal Masters. That was
Eternal Masters.
Sylvan Scrying, which that one does go back a few formats. That was sweet.
Zendikar.
Then Spatial Contortion.
Zendikar.
Crumbling Vestige.
That's Gatewatch.
Flaying Tendrils.
Gatewatch.
Rise from the Tides. Fiery Temper. Call the Bloodline. So
there's
between 2 and 3 from each set.
Okay. Again, so they've already.
They've just been really bad cards. Is the issue? Like they have been.
Yeah.
Like I think Dave, when you posted this, you were like, "Oh, well, at least sweet art for like the battle box. This art is garbage."
Yeah, it's
like I want you to understand that compared to the original art, I'm so. Oh, a Sphinx making a decision? Man, they haven't done that 20 times since Magic Origins.
That's true.
Good old choice Sphinx.
I don't think the art's bad, but I agree with you that the original art is better.
The art's bad.
Sure.
Hot take.
Whatever you say. Either way, this one's like especially awkward because what's the 4-mana draw spell? I can't think of the name of. and standard right now.
Oh,
the energy one.
Oh yeah, Glimmer of Genius.
Yeah,
It's actually
it's like the same exact casting cost, and it's just like miles better.
the one that's like actively good. Yeah,
Right.
Whatever.
but hey,
Can we stop talking about this? This is a waste of our time.
Yeah.
It's a waste of your time. dear
That's
listener.
true. Sorry, it doesn't. It just effing and promos. You're just Garbo. All right, but this next topic is exciting. We have some of our first Aether Revolt spoilers.
Now, hold on. I'm going to do the same thing we always do with this. Only a few of these are actually legitimate spoilers. A couple of them are actual leaks, and they specifically address that on the Magic update today on the Mothership. So if you do not want to hear about these things, we're okay to talk about them because we are not the ones sharing. We didn't get the leak or anything.
Nope.
But if you were trying to keep yourself clean for a few weeks, skip ahead a few minutes.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think. Are we going to talk about all of these?
No,
not all of them.
Do you want to just talk about like a Johnny?
I think a Johnny is probably like the biggest one to even bring up. All the other ones are. Some of them are cool because of like flavor reasons and stuff like that.
I think we shouldn't talk about that one specifically just yet because that was part of the leak and they were upset about it.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
the main issue with the leak is they were all the pivotal plot points.
Story cards.
They were the story cards, which is, yeah, the very sad, very saddening. So yeah, we will talk about a Johnny. So let me pull him up real quick.
I have it. A Johnny
Okay.
Unyielding, which is a 6-mana Planeswalker, a green and a white and 4 generic. Starts with 4 loyalty, and again, Planeswalker, a Johnny. +2, reveal the top 3 cards of your library. Put all non-land permanent cards revealed this way into your hand. Put the rest in the bottom of your library in any order. -2, Swords of Plowshares. So exile target creature, its controller gains life equal to its power. And then -9, put 5 +1/+1 counters on each creature you control and 5 loyalty counters on each other Planeswalker you control. So if you are paying close attention, it is 6 mana plus draw a card minus destroy a creature ultimate.
Yeah, we haven't seen any planeswalkers like that recently.
No, not
Definitely
I can't
not
think-
like-
I can't think of a one.
Yeah, definitely not Obnixilis or Jace.
I mean,
Or
honestly,
Chandra.
This Johnny makes sense. The +2 is in line with its other pluses we've had, especially this reminds me of Mentor Heroes a lot in that sense.
Yeah.
The minus, is a way of protecting yourself. Like it's kind of, it is a flavorful green white way to do that.
Yeah, because he doesn't kill people anymore.
Yeah, he doesn't. Yeah, so
He
like
just makes you go to the fields.
he gives you
shows
a
them
hoe.
the door.
He like literally gives you a hoe. He's like, give me that sword. Here's your hoe. Get out there.
Get to work.
So, I've never farmed before. You'll figure it
You
out.
get used to it.
or you'll starve.
Yeah,
you get a lot of
You don't
time to
really have.
figure it
I'm a
out.
big cat man. You don't have any more options.
I do like that the ultimate allows you to. It's like if you're playing this in a planeswalker deck,
Just
like,
cascade ultimates.
Like, just like all the ultimates happen at once.
Johnny shows up and everyone's like, "Yay!"
I just want a Johnny in a party hat now. So
So it's like a Johnny comes in, and then your opponent has his first spell countered, and then whenever you cast a spell, you get to throw a fireball at someone. And what are the other ones? Oh, when anyone draws a card, or what? I forget what Obnixilis is.
yeah.
Draw a card, lose a life for your opponent.
So this is a really quick aside, but I need you to know we did learn something in the open this weekend. So Chandra's ultimate, you mentioned the 5 damage. It says target creature or player. So if you Emrakul a person who has a Chandra emblem, you can kill them with their own Chandra emblem. Just so you know, it's a real thing that happened this weekend.
Man, that's rough. That is some rough stuff right there.
I know it's really random, but it pops in my head when you said that. So I think this card's okay. I don't currently see how it sees play.
No, yeah.
I mean, Soren's not seeing any play.
I don't think this card's good.
I forgot Soren was a card.
6 mana planeswalker with a bunch of loyalty.
Can kill something.
Draws cards and kills things.
I forgot that. I literally forgot.
Like, compare this card to Soren. Like seriously, like look at the design. 6 mana, 2-color planeswalker. It ticks up to draw cards. It ticks down to kill things. Like, how is this?
There are so many similar planeswalkers now. It's unbelievable.
I wish they would stop. I kind of hope they slowly start reducing how many walkers are even in a set. If they're running this low on design space, then we need to slow it down a little bit because these are getting real boring.
Yeah.
At first, I thought this one was the planeswalker deck of Johnny.
Nope.
No, the planeswalker.
Which we got that one too.
They
but-
also revealed as a Johnny Valiant Protector, same mana cost, same loyalty. +2, put 2 +1/+1 counters to one target creature. +1, reveal top card of your library until you reveal a creature card, and then put that in your hand and put the rest in the bottom in random order. Then -11, put X +1/+1 counters on target creature, where X is your life total, and that creature gains trampled to turn. So that of Johnny is definitely really underwhelming. So
But not that far off from this
No,
one.
it's
in my
really not.
opinion. Yeah.
no, I actually disagree with that. The -2 exile a creature is good. It is definitively good. I don't know if you know this. Exiled target creature. It's pretty good enough format with this much recursion. So
Yeah, Exile's a very important clause.
yeah, Santa Claus.
Yeah.
It's December. I'm allowed.
But yeah, I saw this card and I was like, why?
Yeah.
Like, you literally wasted cardboard just to give us a kind of meh.
Yeah, I just don't see this card seeing. I hope it does see play. I really do. But like, I don't know what deck wants. What deck wants this?
I mean, there's even so we had Naya, show up in the Eighth Worst decks,
Sure.
but it's not like they want a card like this.
Do they want a 6-mana card? Like when they're trying to win the game on turn 4?
I suppose it does help you find your eighth orc.
It does.
It does, but you have to build a deck. Like so.
Yeah, but assumedly you already have one out to get this guy to
Right,
play in the first place.
But the kind of deck that wants this, like okay, so and again, we're extrapolating based on things. But I compare this card to even like Tamio, which saw play this weekend, right? Like if you're a deck that is full of creatures, right? Do you want your 6-mana guy that finds you more permanents? Because you can't play this in a control deck. You get non-land permanents when you take it up, so you're not going to draw any cards off of it. So it needs to be in a creature-based permanent deck.
Yeah, so
Are you going to play this over Tamio?
right. So it needs to be its clause is very similar to Domri Raid,
Yeah, I was just gonna say that.
but it's not aggressive.
In any way
So you played in a mid-range deck.
that just gets destroyed by Emrakul then?
I'm
I don't
grasping
know.
at
Yeah,
straws
I
here. Maybe there's some more cool stuff waiting in the wings.
I'm sorry. I feel bad because we're talking about the sweet new card and like we already hate it. But
No, it's just
very, this was supposed to be an exciting reveal, I think, and I didn't hear anybody be. I have not heard a single person be. I was in a room with 700 Magic players and didn't hear the buzz. So
Yeah, because it's just like it's a card that when you take a look at the standard format as a whole is not going to do anything.
I don't even mind that. I'm more annoyed by just the same template that we've seen on so many planeswalkers recently in the last couple of years of just like plus draw a card minus do something to a creature and then whatever ultimate. Whatever. Like it's gonna be good, but whatever. It's just tired at this point, in my opinion. But
they're just wasting all the sweet Johnny art too, because both the Johnny arts are pretty sweet.
First of all, the Planeswalker deck of Johnny's definitely like pretty kitty.
Pretty
Johnny.
kitty. Oh, it's definitely pretty.
He feels like
it came from like
he looks like Fabio. I want to point that out.
He came from the Jace versus Chandra duel deck.
Yeah.
The Japanese one.
Yeah,
he
exactly.
definitely did. Oh man. So I will say they also revealed the Tezzeret from the duel deck, and his name is Master of Metal. And all I've
First
seen,
of all, that Tezzeret listens to Disturbed all the time.
all I've seen all day are just like pictures of Tezzeret holding a guitar. So, oh man, he's the Master of Metal, perhaps also the Master of Puppets. I don't know.
Probably.
So-
No, they already had the Master Puppet. There was that marionette card
Oh, that's
in Kaladesh.
so does that mean that we're getting a Tezzeret? I guess we kind of knew that anyway.
Yeah, we
right?
did know we were getting Tezzeret is on the packaging art.
Yeah.
So for this set, but I think that's all we really want to talk about with this. Just because we had one more official one we could talk about if we wanted to. Do you want to talk Heart of Kirin?
We can.
That was official.
Yeah.
That came via.
So I know we're leaving Master Metal, but there's definitely like a memory jar, like whiskey in the jar joke somewhere
Oh, yeah.
in there. It's
Oh, yeah.
somewhere. It's pretty out there. And abstract.
say rain, dabba doo dabba da.
Memory in the jar.
I will say the original, like the version of that is oh shoot, now I'm gonna forget the name of the band. Thin Lizzy's version of that is pretty sweet. If it's just saying.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk Heart of Kirin or not?
I mean, we can talk about Harakiri in reference to like a Johnny because it's something that kind of works well with it. But it is a very unique card in something we kind of haven't seen before.
So Heart of Kirin is a 2 generic mana legendary artifact vehicle. If you're Heart of Kirin it seems to be named after Kirin Nalaar, so that's kind of sweet. It is a 4/4 with flying and vigilance, but its crew cost is 3, so it's pretty steep. Unless, of course, you have a Planeswalker in play, in which case you may remove a loyalty counter from a Planeswalker you control rather than pay Heart of Kirin's crew cost. Which, that is where the sort of spice for this comes from. Now, we only really have one 3-mana walker in Standard currently, right? It's Liliana.
We have
Liliana.
Sahili Rai, technically.
So,
Yeah.
oh, okay, so Healy could do this. And she comes with 4 loyalty, too, so...
Yeah, right? Or is it 3? I think it's 3. She goes up to 4.
Maybe that's it. But either way, that's fine. It's certainly interesting. this card feels like you just look at it and I don't know how to evaluate it. Like it get 2 mana 4/4s with like alternate ways to make them into creatures. Like that's impressive.
It seems powerful.
But crew cost of 3 in general is tough. You compare that to like Smuggler's Copter 1. Everything makes a 1/1, but 3 power is harder to get to.
Yeah, the only thing that the only things that have 3 crew that see play are things that have effects other than just being a creature.
No, of course, Veteran Motors obviously works really well with this, and DePaula as well.
Yeah.
But beyond that, you have to be working kind of hard to get there. And being legendary, like Smuggler's Copters, you just put your 4 copies in, and like even if you're flooding on copies, you discard them. But this one, like, how can you just put 4 straight in if it's very good? It doesn't seem like it.
No.
So this is a weird card. The loyalty thing is interesting because one, it allows you to this pressures a Gideon pretty effectively. It also allows you to essentially, if you have this in play, you can now defend any of your every single planeswalker you have now has a protect itself clause at -1, make a 4/4 to block, which is nothing to say the least. I will say it was already brought up by a friend of ours that if you have this in play and you have multiple planeswalkers in play and you get Emerald, you will have 0 planeswalkers in play. Just so you know, they will continue to crew it.
This is probably going to run
They will
cool.
They will crew that ship to death.
It's just Emrakul's just like standing there, and a ship just like runs into her and then dies.
It's like definitely like Emerald's like telling people to get on the ship, but it's obviously full, and it's like I said get on the ship.
Get on the ship,
but there's no more room. Get on the ship.
Jason's there like, I don't want to get on the ship.
Yeah.
Oh man. So I don't know how I am not very excited about this card, especially if like Planeswalkers we're going to get in a new format are 6 mana or Johnny's. I will say this does look exciting with a Gideon, for example, because like if you have this and a Smuggler's Copter, then you play a Gideon, you can make a token that will crew the Smuggler's Copter, and then Gideon can crew the Heart of Kirin, and your board state is pretty interesting because it's immune to almost every type of regular removal spell. That is every piece of sorcery removal spell, anything that just deals with creatures, because your Gideon is the one who's doing all of the work. But that's constructing the best case scenario.
Yeah, it's like like if this is a combo card, it's like just the worst combo card.
Yeah,
and it feels like that. It feels like if you have to put multiple things together, that you want more of a payoff than just being like, well, I can consistently crew my 4/4.
I guess it's so hard because like it's 2 mana. Smuggler's Copter is just it's going to be so hard to make me ever believe that this is better in almost any scenario than Smuggler's Copter.
I would never say that.
So
there are never words that would come out of my mouth.
I don't think you would ever play it over Smuggler's. This is kind of like in addition to Smuggler's Copter. Maybe you want
really
this.
upset you drew because like your hand didn't work the way it's I guess.
Yeah, this to me seems like a very high variance card where it's like if you don't have a Planeswalker, it's going to be very medium, and if you do have a Planeswalker, it's going to be pretty awesome. But there's like no in between. It's never it's going to be like
and these of course are tentative evaluations. There's still very much a lot of the set to kind of see. So who knows?
I don't know how I feel about Planeswalker loyalty being used as a payment for a non-Planeswalker card. That's really weird.
If a Planeswalker wants to drive a car, they've got to pay loyalty to do it.
It's just super weird though. We've never seen that. We've never seen loyalty used other than just using Planeswalker abilities. So
yeah, but I don't think that's a bad thing. I think I would prefer them like exploring design space.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's bad or good. I don't know how I feel about it. It's like that's interesting, I guess. Like
I think
it's gonna do some weird stuff.
Yeah, I agree with that. I feel like when taking a look at it and like looking at greater design in a whole, it's really weird because if they do this, then it means that in general, standard might become even more reliant on planeswalkers, because if you have cards that require planeswalkers to function, and if you don't have any, then your decks cease to function, cease to be. But this is a mythic rare, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think this is a mythic rare effect. It's unique. It's not something that obviously you ever want to open in a draft. By the way, for the most part, it could be all right.
I think
that'd be pretty good.
I think turning your average draft commons would have 3 power into 4/4.
Yeah. I guess you're right.
Pretty good, but
so that may be all right. Never mind. Nix that. But
Journey into
no, nix that is well technically, I guess, but
Journey into nix that.
yes, yeah, we can
Knicks, please for him.
stop it.
We should move on.
Anyway, yeah, I think it's not what I mean to say
talking
is
about
it's not going to be something that you see
Stop.
at rare or lower probably.
Stop.
I think it's mythic because of the Planeswalker clause
No, I agree with you.
or the loyalty clause.
I think it is design space that they might be excited to use in the future. So we'll see. I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, Planeswalker chariot races could become a thing on M1Cat.
All right. So that is everything for our community segment. Before we get into the competitive segment, we do want to talk about what's happening at Comic Town over the weekend. So Comic Town's signature event is happening. It's the end of the year, so it's going to be the series final, the Comic Town Classic Series Final. It's going to be held Sunday, December 11th. This is a 32-player event. This is invite only. You had to get queued for it in some way, shape, or form. And it's a 5K tournament. So everyone who is qualified, we wish you the best. It's going to be a finals match between Mike and Dave, though. So
It's been
I don't
preordained.
know. That list is pretty stacked. I mean, a lot of Columbus local regulars, but even like some names you would know outside of that, like Pierre Mondon is top 8 at a PT a little while back. I don't know if you know that. So like we've got some players on that list who, yeah, I wish it was just so. I wish Dave and I could teleport to the finals. Get that sweet handshake and move
no,
on.
I mean that's what I want.
I appreciate that.
I want the belt. All right. Or the trophy or whatever it is that you win.
Okay, well then I guess the handshake's off.
Oh, geez.
I mean, we can do splitsies, but
No,
we're going to play for the trophy.
You got to play for the hardware, as it were.
Absolutely.
Now, if you haven't qualified yet, well, I have good news for you. On Saturday, the 10th, there's going to be three last chance qualifiers. They're going to be at 10 a.m., 1 p.m., and 4 p.m., and they're all going to be different formats, kind of. So 10 a.m. is standard, 1 p.m. is modern, and then 4 p.m. is standard again. So obviously the actual series final is going to be a split format, so it's going to be standard and modern. So if you do qualify for it at one of those last chance qualifiers, make sure you have both decks available to you in some facet. And all of the last chance qualifiers are $20 to enter. So anyone who is going to go out for the last chance of qualifying, I wish you all the best.
I mean, think about this. You get $100 just for playing in the event on Sunday. So if it takes you all three qualifiers to qualify and you get in, you'll still be up $40.
Right. Yeah. 9 through 32 wins $100. So if you show up, play one round and drop, you get $100. So hey, that's value.
It is. And Comic Town will also be running a modern IQ on Sunday the 11th. It'll either fire at 12 p.m. or at the end of round 2 of the Classic Finals, whichever is later. So come out to Comic Town this weekend if you want to play some awesome games of Magic.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to the Classic Series Final for a long time. I top 4, or I lost in the finals of the first Classic or Comic Town Classic, and that was before they even announced that there was going to be this invitation only. So I later on found out that I was already qualified for it. I was like, oh, sweet. So I've been kind of looking forward to this all year, and like being a split format tournament, and they're going to do the top 8 like they do the top 8 of the Pro Tours with kind of the tiered, buy system and stuff like that. So
it'll be interesting.
Yeah, I haven't played any tournaments like that yet, so I'm pretty excited.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully I can get to the top 8.
Yep. Again, wish both you guys the best of luck. Let's move on to our competitive segment. So we have a lot of ground to cover on this. There's a ton of tournaments happening over the weekend. There's the Invitational, the Open, the Classics, the GPs. So we're kind of just going to run through a bunch of stuff here and then come back to the start and talk about actual decks and things we want to bring out of all of these events. So we're going to be talking about everything kind of at once. But that's okay because a lot of standard is a lot of the same things over and over again, so it's fine. So first, let's talk about the big tournament, the Invitational. It was held in Atlanta. It was modern and standard. Standard first, modern last, and the standard in the top 8, to be exact. And the winner was Jacob Baugh, taking it down, playing Dredge in modern and Naya Aetherworks in standard. And we actually had a pretty good top 8 when you take a look at it. We had Ben Friedman, Jim Davis, Joe Bernal, and Chris Anderson showing up as 4 of the other combatants in the top 8. So congrats to Jacob Ball. The Standard Open, which was held the next day, was won by Brennan DeCandio, playing it with playing Black Green Delirium, playing it with, I don't know what I'm saying there. But we on this podcast care more about Mike, who actually finished in the top 4.
I did. Are we going to circle back around and talk decks?
Correct. I just wanted to give you a quick shout out there.
Okay, because I mean, I'm ready to toot my own.
I understand. We're it's going to be like that.
I made a good joke, and it's fine.
No, I'll allow you to toot your own horn.
Panharmonicon.
Sure.
It's all instrumental.
Yeah, it's like it looks like an organ on the card. So
yeah, I was trying to find like pictures to like tweet out, and like the best one I could find was like the old school like Phantom of the Opera with the guy like his arm like up in the air, like. I don't know. You have to find a GIF of the Simpsons episode where they're in the chapel and they're doing in the garden in the Garden of Eden.
Yeah, except it's in the Garden of Eden.
Yeah, I know.
And then at the end of it, the organist unfortunately dies due to exhaustion. So after that, we have the Modern Classic, which is won by Caleb Shearer playing Dredge. So it turns out Dredge still good Modern. And then we have the Standard Classic, won by Lee Stett, playing Esper Aggro, which is sort of a new hotness or a new take on an old flavor that kind of showed up this weekend. Moving on to the GPs, we had GP Madrid, which was Standard. It was won by Carmine Di Anello, playing Red Green Aetherworks. And then we had the GP Denver, which was won by Matt Severa, with his third GP win in 2016, playing Marty Vehicles, defeating Steve Rubin, playing Teamer Aetherworks in the finals. And then Seth Manfield kind of stole your thunder a little bit, Mike.
Yeah, a little bit.
I'm so sorry. He was also playing a blue-white Panharmonicon deck, along with
Pascal Maynard.
Pascal Maynard, that's right. So that was sort of the results at a sort of a glance. Let's dive in here. So first, let's talk shop about Standard, and let's talk about Mike's deck first, because that's why you came here, right?
I'd like to think so.
I mean, that's why other people came here. Probably they want to know what garbage you were playing over the weekend and why it won.
I came here because it's my home.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That's true.
We are in your house.
You do live here. That is a fact. So you and I, and I guess and Dave as well, and all of the people that are sort of in our group chat, kind of knew you were going a little bit out here playing Panharmonicon, playing this sort of deck.
Yeah. So. We took that week off, and I will say I was telling the guys, you guys here in show chat and stuff, that I was a little bit lost in Standard, which that's not normally me. And to be quite honest, like if you even look at like this format, like the Indie Open that the iTop 8 that Morgan had such a good run at is literally like a month and a half ago. So it's like to say that you're like lost in a format that you sort of like helped work to define the first week. You know what I mean? It's like it feels bad. I'm going to tell you it feels real bad because that's the format I'm always really confident about. Like how Dave will turn around and say I'm going to play this in Modern because I can do this, and I'll play Delver and I'll smooch them all night and they're great. So I was like, man. So I tried aggro decks, could not find one that I liked. I didn't want to play Delirium, and like part of that is like that. I don't know. I like to not play the best deck sometimes, which is not always a good decision. Sometimes you have to. I played Band Company because you had to.
Yeah,
but like the Delirium matchups, like looking at even like how Brad Nelson won, like they've come down to like they're so close in lists, and one card can be the difference. And I just don't have the time to to figure out how to board and win the matchup.
Yeah, and it really feels like you have to really like grinding those mirror matches out.
Yeah.
And I don't it's not something that I would like to do in particular.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and that's not necessarily a bad thing.
No,
there are a lot of really miserable mirror matches out there. I don't know, like burn mirrors, for example. Right?
What happens in the Lantern
mirrors.
Control mirror?
Company mirrors, yeah. Control mirrors can be sweet depending on.
I actually like control mirrors. There are a lot of control mirrors.
Lantern Control.
No, that's not.
That can't be.
No.
It can't be fun.
But yeah, but
There's some players that derive like that. That's where they get the enjoyment of the game from. So I wouldn't hold it against anyone, but it's not something not my cup of tea. I want to kill you on turn like 3 or 4.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, like, I feel like the black green delirium mirror is not that miserable to play. I feel like there's a lot of play to it, and your deck construction can matter a lot.
And I think the other part of it too is that I knew that there are a number of Aetherworks decks that were getting very popular in Magic Online, and the Delirium matchup was a dog to it. So I don't know. I was sort of lost and didn't know where to go with this. And if you've listened to me here before, you've ever read anything that I've written, I'm a person who likes to brew, and I think that I, as a player, gain points if I'm playing something that is not the most known thing. So I saw Adam Yurchik wrote an article for TCG Player where he was trying to throw out obscure decks that sort of were in the fringes of Standard, and he threw out a blue-white Panharmonicon deck that it took second place in a Hyrule Open. So it's Japanese, so that should tell you everything you need to know. And I was like, okay. I mean, just looking at the cards, it had Panharmonicon, it had Cloud Blazers, which I don't know if you've known this. If you go back to our set review, I love that card. That card does every. I think I'm quoting myself without even checking. That card does everything I ever wanted a Magic card to do. So
yeah, we really wanted it to be good, but we felt like it was just a little bit on the outside
I figured out how to fix
playability.
it.
Yeah, you fixed it. You just gotta play a 4-mana artifact.
And then I had Drowner of Hope, which I also realized that I have a really weird obsession with that card, apparently, because I cast it. I convinced 4 people to play that card in the Pro Tour, and then I also played the entire summer playing the Blue-Red Ulamog deck that had 4 of them in it. So I realized that somehow I just apparently love Drowner of Hope.
Hey, you know what? I've cast that card. Oh, man. It's a really good card to cast.
So when you get 4 tokens off it?
I don't know what that's like, but it sounds amazing.
So honestly, though, I'm like, all right, Morgan... I was like, Morgan, I'm going to do something crazy. Will you please just play Black Green Delirium against me a bunch, even though I'm going to play Jank against you? And Morgan, being the good buddy, the loyal Hufflepuff,
Correct.
He fell on that sword.
and we started playing matches, and the Delirium deck was not putting up much of a fight.
No, you could do some damage, but eventually, you just couldn't win. I remember there were plenty of games where I had you at 4 or 5 life or something like that, so close to just finishing the game, and then just couldn't.
And there was a game near the end of our testing, and I just had him just keep jamming games. We would play a couple unboarded, and then started playing boarded games, and we tried to get a ton of games in. Obviously, the games were lengthy, but there was a game where essentially his Emrakul involved him hurting my board while also flickering his own Ishkana 3 times, and that game didn't end up being close. Meaning the Panharmonicon deck won. And after that game, I was like, okay, this is crazy. So now let me talk about the deck a little bit in construction, because I know I heard the guys on Monday Night Magic talking about it, and they didn't see some of the combo elements to it. A lot of people thought this was just a value deck.
So while you talk about your deck, also throw in maybe some things about Seth's deck as well.
So Seth and I were both playing very similar ideas. I was all in on the combo. He had a little bit more value stuff to him, only playing a couple copies of Drowner of Hope, and even Thought Not Seer, etc. He had also had one less Eldrazi Displacer than myself. He also had Sky Sovereign in the main, which I told these guys I attributed that to just not having cast the card enough, and I totally agree it should be in the main because double triggers on that card is unbelievable. I wouldn't play the Essence Flux again. I really don't he was playing Cranes, which is you look at the top 4 for an artifact. I still really don't like that card, but I will talk about the need to have more interaction on turn 2, so some number of that card is probably fine, but it still doesn't feel very good. It's the only card that I actively did not like in his list. But anyway, so the way the deck sort of works, it functions around Panharmonicon, Eldrazi Displacer, and Drowner of Hope. Drowner of Hope will then get 4 Scions if you have a Panharmonicon. Eldrazi Displacer only needs 3 Scions to flicker the Drowner of Hope, which nets you a token each time, infinite mana, infinite Scions. A lot of times infinite Scions will be enough to win the game, but for most positions you can do a number of interesting things. If you have a Cloud Blazer or a Thraben Inspector, which curving Panharmonicon into Cloud Blazer is one of the most enjoyable things you can do in Magic. I just need you to know. But if you have a Cloud Blazer in play when this goes off, then you can draw your deck. If you have a Thraben Inspector in play, you can also draw your deck because you make infinite clues and you can crack as many as you want. Then you draw into your Thought Not Seer, and then you make them draw their deck, which I did multiple times across the tournament.
So how does that work?
So Thought Not Seer enters the battlefield and looks at their hand, and then it says whenever it leaves play, your opponent draws a card.
And they have to draw cards.
They have to.
So,
It's not
okay.
a may. So you proceed to have with your infinite mana, and you blink the Thought Not Seer over and over again. They can't do anything, even if they have instant speed removal. You can just flicker again in response, no matter what. So you make them draw their deck, and they die. So that was the way to make sure that they were just dead on the turn that you went off. Otherwise, you just made Infinite Science and you attacked them with it. So I played a couple weird cards that he didn't play. I will say his mana base seemed worse than mine. He played 4 Evolving Wilds and no Port Towns. The original mana base from the Higher Realist had like Shrine of the Forsaken Gods, which felt worthless, but you wanted the colorless sources. I played more Thought Not Seers, and I had Spatial Contortions in the board, which I want those to become Aether Meltdowns. Seth was already on Aether Meltdowns. I literally, like, halfway through day 1 was like, man, I wish I had Aether Meltdowns. And I saw Seth's list, and I'm like, exactly, those cards right there. So I played a Blighted Step and a Blighted Cataract and a Westvale Abbey. I think he had 2 Westvale Abbeys in his. You also play a Waste because you have Pilgrim's Eye to go and get the Waste, which is sweet. Blighted Cataract is the one that you can sack to draw 2 cards, which was actually relevant many times in the tournament because this is a deck that gives you time to do it. And Blighted Step is the one where you gain 2 life for each creature you control. Fun fact, you can also gain infinite life with that. So I only had to do that once because the way that it worked out is that both my Thought Not Seers were dead and my opponent had chained a number of Emrakuls against me with an Aetherworks. So I was like, I'm going to win this game eventually. And then it was just like, all right, I'm going to gain infinite life right now. Do you concede to that? And they were like, okay, yeah, I'll concede to that. I'm like, okay. So because they kept taking my turn with Emrakul and sacking all my Scions, and but I had already tapped their board down, so they couldn't do much else. And it's like, you can only do this for so many turns. Overall, I really thought I really enjoyed the deck. It really beat up on the Delirium deck, but a deck I didn't even do as much testing against was the Aetherworks deck. And over the course of the Invitational and the Open, I just kept figuring out how powerful this deck was against it. Emrakul is not good against this deck. Actively not good against it. There are so many things, like Reflector Mage, which can only target opponents, Displacer itself, which will blink it, Thought Not Seer to grab it itself, and then, of course, Drowner of Hope to tap it, because most of their good turns revolve around them wrecking your board via attacks. Well, when half of your cards can only target them, right, and when half of your cards stop Emrakul from coming into play at all, or from coming into play untapped, it's really difficult to do this. This is not an exaggeration. I won multiple games across the tournament where my opponent cast 4 Emrakuls through the Aetherworks deck. It just didn't matter. So that was a fun thing to figure out. And honestly, just going through, so I 3-1 the Invitational in Standard. Modern did not go so well. I played Grixis Delver. I had some really, wanting to put my head through a wall games where a flip of a Delver won the game, and it just never did.
Hey, welcome to the Delver life.
Yeah, I know,
right?
but
live by the Delver, die by the Delver.
Yeah, that's just how it goes when you choose the Delver life.
But I was feeling we drove down really early, it was in the morning, 1 in the morning we left to go to the Invitational. So Friday night it was just feeling like trash. Woke up in the morning, felt a lot better, played in the Open, went 1-2 to start, lost to Mardu Vehicles and Flash. I was like, all right, whatever, I know I'm playing a fun deck. Then I won 10 rounds in a row.
Isn't that awesome?
It's the best.
I've done that probably twice before. Maybe not even 10 rounds in a row, but being in a spot where you're all right, if I lose one more match, then I'm out, essentially,
Yeah,
and just being I'm just not going to lose. And by the end of it, you actually feel like you can't lose.
That's how it started to feel, and honestly, what happened? I played Flash a bunch day 1, but once I got through the Flash, then I started playing against Black Green and Marvel, Aetherworks Marvel, pretty much multiple. It was 7 rounds in a row. I played one of those 2 decks up until round 13, where I played against Red White Humans, and it was just there was just weren't even close. These were not close matches. So I lost 1 game between those at that point. It was a sick run, but it was also just awesome how the deck starts to sort of play itself when you're just Harmonicon on 4, and then your decisions are, how many cards do I want to draw? That's your decisions. How many cards do I feel drawing right now?
How much value do I need this turn?
So I was pretty happy. I got into the top 8. I was able to beat Shaheen Sarani, which talented magician to say the least. I will say his board was, if you look at Sheen's list from the top 8, I don't think we want to talk about any of the Delirium decks really, but his list had the most interaction from the sideboard that any of them had, and he managed to take game 2 and make game 3 really interesting because he shut off my infinite combo. because he had 2 Lost Legacy and 2 Pick the Brain, so multiple ways to get copies out of decks. And then I ended up losing the top 4. I was 7-1 on the weekend of Delirium, and I lost to the eventual winner in top 4. And those games were I should have mulliganed the first game. I didn't have interaction for Grimflayer, which is their best card against you. And he played a turn 2 Grimflayer. I didn't interact with it, and I died to his draws being great.
Yeah, we even saw that in testing. Like the best games that I had playing the Delirium deck were the ones where I was turn 2 Flare.
Right. And then the next game, I missed multiple land drops, like just so many land drops that it was, and that's one of those things that, it was funny because we were having a conversation about, like, do you split the top 8 back and forth, and was talking to Shaheen, and I was like, I'm a person who always splits in that scenario because, like, I said I could have, and I would have all the way to the finals. I said I could have black-green matchups all the way into the end and still want to split because Magic is Magic, and that matchup definitely showed that. Not to say anything else, obviously I played against a very good player as well, so a lot of players weren't taking nearly as aggressive lines as he was against me, but also we had deck lists at that point, and by the end of the tournament, I had a lot of fun in this tournament because by the end of the tournament, I had a lot of people just like excited to watch, which is always fun when you're like, yeah, okay, we're doing crazy things. Or like, hey, did you see this? Did you see this? I had a grown man hug me because he was so happy the Panharmonicon was winning. It was fun. So it was a great run. Sad I could not get another. I had dreams of it. Like I really had dreams of another trophy on this one, which was sad. And I also think the matchup in the finals. We'll talk about Eli Cassis's deck as well. I think that matchup would have been a lot of fun to play. So, but this deck, I'm going to be honest. I think this is actually pretty well positioned in the metagame right now because it beats Delirium consistently and it beats Aetherworks consistently, even the Naya version. Nahiri is great. Still doesn't interact with Panharmonicon, and so few of the cards that these decks have right now interact with it. Again, if the sideboards of Delirium go more towards more Pick the Brains and more Legacies, which by the way Legacy doesn't hit the Panharmonicon because it can't hit artifacts. I will say maybe it's right to move towards Seth, which is less all in on the combo and have more Sky Sovereigns in the main. But the card Panharmonicon is so good against these decks. I'm telling you, if you test it. Watch what happens when you get 2 triggers off for Reflector Mage, and then you get to cast your Thought-Knot Seer afterwards and get 2 triggers of that. And the 2 creatures that were bothering you are now in exile, and their hand is terrible. You feel amazing.
And I will say one thing. Across the 2 different versions of the deck that we saw, it's cheap. Like comparatively speaking, it is actually very expensive. So if you are. Huh?
Inexpensive.
I thought I said inexpensive.
You said expensive.
Okay, inexpensive. Sorry, very inexpensive comparatively to what else is being played in the format. So if you are looking for the only deck that's competitive that is cheaper, I think is Black Red. And this is the next step up pretty much. So if you already have some of these cards even or have access to them, then you really do have a cheap deck that you can pick up pretty easily.
Yeah, MTG Goldfish I think had this listed at like 117, and like all the Delirium decks are almost 400, 500.
Correct.
So
yeah, those Lilianas will get you.
Yeah, they will.
Well, Emrakul's too at this point.
Yeah, that's true. So Mike, you mentioned Black Green's a pretty good matchup. You did pretty well against Aetherworks. How about Flash decks? You play against any Flash?
I went 3-1 against Flash decks.
Okay.
I think Flash actually felt like a really similar matchup to the Black-Green decks. There are 2 cards that really mattered in those matchups. Spellqueller matters because against all the other decks, you could take turn 4 off and cast Panharmonicon and you don't even care. Spellqueller makes it awkward to spend your whole turn on that because then they get tempo.
And that's why those decks are generally favored against Marvel as well, because they're able to counter.
I can still just play creatures instead.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I'm not really well set up to play on their turn, so sometimes you just have to try and get under the spell queller and then force them to play a little bit differently. And then Gideon is a tough card for this deck. The hands where they just have Gideon and maybe a couple stasis snares, those don't matter. You can kill their Gideon. The hands where they're able to go they have their own Reflector Mage into the Gideon into an Avacyn, they have a clock and they have a Gideon, and now you're forced to be you have to change the game a little bit. So it's pretty draw dependent. It definitely gets better out of the board. Things like Sky Sovereign are really good, and I think again moving towards putting those in the main, looking at that Seth Manfield list makes a lot of sense to get rid of Gideons. If you don't know this, Sky Sovereign, Panharmonicon says creatures or artifacts double.
Yeah.
So Panharmonicon can actually just one-shot planeswalkers, and if Naya Aetherworks is now the new hotness for that one, you actively will want to be able to one-shot planeswalkers.
Kenji Numantanami actually did some videos for this deck, and in one of them, this is spoiler alert, he kills an Emrakul with a Sky Sovereign because he attacks with a Crane and the guy blocks, and then he has 3 Panharmonicons and he just plays a Sky Sovereign and goes 3/3/3. So yeah, 3/3/3, right? It has to do 12. It does 12 damage to him.
Yeah.
Instead of 3 Harmonicons.
Yes,
yeah,
correct.
Okay,
Yeah, 3/3/3.
That is still awesome.
That's hilarious.
It's beautiful. It's a thing of beauty. So.
So those were Flash was fine. It was really draw dependent based on Gideon. Sideboard games you get like negates, which then you could start playing on their turn a little bit more. I think I had only 1 spell shrivel and more negates, and he had I think 1 negate and had 2 spell shrivels, and he had a summary dismissal. Summary dismissal is fine. I never felt like I desperately would like. There was never a thing where I was like, man, I wish I had this 4 mana spell, but I could see where you might want it. The matchup that's actively bad is really the hyper aggressive matchups. We tested versus Red Black, which actually Red Black was much more beatable than the other versions because Red Black just wants to burn you out at the end, and Cloud Blazer stops that from happening.
Red Black is probably like the slowest version of aggro.
It's the slowest
right
version
now.
of aggro, and its reach is not like I can brick wall their creatures and then gain life, and then they don't have a way to get back in. The vehicles version of the deck, though, like any of the Mardu or the red white vehicles, is rough because you can't like Reflector Mage doesn't interact favorably with Gideon or with a Smuggler's Copter. So if they go Copter into like Gideon, those draws are just really tough to beat. So those are decks where you're boarding out. Like we worked on board packages, and essentially it was board out all the Panharmonicons, get a little lower. I think I like some of I liked having the spatials, but again they quickly got outclassed if they had motorists.
Yeah, better motorists.
Because like, you have to
Depala.
kill the motorist that isn't attacking, as opposed to wanting so I think Aether Meltdown's just better, and I wanted that halfway through the day. And he had Filigree Familiars, which like I wasn't as high on, but like because you have infinite 3-drops, but I could see it being helpful. It's just a roadblock, but it just doesn't block Copter is my only real issue with it. So aggro is your worst matchup. Some of the control matchups can be rough. I played against Ali Antrazi day 1, and he was playing straight blue-black control. And like game 1, I just didn't draw enough spells to pressure his counter magic and died. And then like game 3 though was the exact opposite, where I was able to slowly like tempt out his like counter magic and just keep attacking with 1/1s. And like so again, I think you have to play very carefully, but it's boarded games it's much more winnable. So if your meta game is like a lot of mid range decks in black green, this is great. If your meta game is all vehicles, sorry, you can't play that sweet music just yet.
Well, no, not. It's not its time, unfortunately. I think it was a pretty good, breakdown of the deck. I'm sure people, if you do decide to make any sort of updates or changes or have any suggestions for sideboards, definitely let the people know about it.
Yeah, I'll post about it. I think Seth will probably end up writing about it if I had to
probably.
guess. And I don't know, maybe I'll write about it too. I haven't decided yet. I haven't written in a while. So.
I know it's I'm sure it's very alluring for the people out there.
I doubt it. Josh Claytor might like it.
Maybe he could be. So what do we want to talk about from some decks here?
No, I'm done. So
I understand.
like I'm just gonna. You guys can just keep.
Oh no, you have to stay here and finish it out.
But I talked about everything I was excited about.
Sorry.
He's like, I don't care about anything else.
Do you want to talk about? We can talk about Jacob Boslis.
We should probably
talk
start there.
And about Aetherworks. He did go 7-1 with it, which is pretty awesome. So it was not only the champions deck, but also a deck that did perform well. Sometimes you don't get that with the top 8 decks. They're the 6-2 lists or something like that. And they're not like the ones that went undefeated or nearly undefeated. So, and his is a little bit different. So what we see here is Naya. So we do see an actual white splash kind of show up, and we see that for a few cards. So we see it for Sigarda, which is honestly sort of the tech that really came out of the Invitational weekend. This is the trump to Emrakul because you can't target a player when they have hexproof, it turns out. So Emrakul's like, I really want to control your next turn, but you got that silly angel. Dang. And
Maybe tomorrow.
Maybe tomorrow. And then you also have Nahiri as something that is showing up in the main deck for the white slash. And I believe that's everything. Checking? Yeah. It looks to be it. So
yeah, the Nahiri is especially nice because it lets you dig for your Aetherworks Marvel if you don't already have it. Also, there are some Delirium elements to the deck because it plays Ishkana, so you're able to discard different types of cards so that you can get to Delirium a little bit faster. So I don't know. I think it's it's a worthy splash for sure.
And sometimes you get to exile your opponent's Aetherworks.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is certainly true. I will say, if this becomes, because like you had an Anaya mirror in the finals, but if this becomes like the version, which it seems like it has a chance to,
Yep.
Nahiri is awkward because Nahiri then like gets into weird places where like it allows you to like set up like, okay, your opponent Emrakul and they attacked, so like now you go off with your own Emrakul and then you make their Nahiri exile their own Emrakul, and then like Nahiri is a weird card to let your opponent have control of, because you have to be very careful of like the ultimate, and you have to be careful of what you can like. Oh, I'll tap your Aetherworks, right? Oh, I'll find nothing. Oh, I'll exile your Aetherworks, and like Nahiri may allow your opponent to wreck your turns harder than they could before.
That's true, but I do think that outside of that, I think Nahiri has a lot of upside.
No, I agree with you.
It gives you like a whole nother dimension to the deck, because now I feel like this version is a lot less all in on finding Aetherworks Marvel. Like you could actually just play a normal mid-range game. Like you can use Nahiri just to filter through your deck and then just like go get an Emrakul, hit him. The Emrakul goes back to your hand and then you can actually just recast it, maybe a couple turns later. So that is a nice plan B to have than to just be, oh man, my Aetherworks Marvel got spell-quellered. I guess I lose.
Yeah.
Like, what I mean? Like, it's been cool to see the progression of the Marvel decks since the Pro Tour, because we saw Matt Nass top 8 the Pro Tour, and it was kind of like, all right, I'm going to like play, Cranes to search for my Aetherworks Marvel, and I'm going to play 4 Emrakuls and 4 Ulumogs and all in. And now it's a lot more nuanced and kind of scaled back a little bit to play more of a mid-range game. So,
Yeah.
yeah. I haven't played much Standard, so I know a lot of people aren't happy with the card Aetherworks Marvel about how it creates unfun games, because you can just run away with a turn 4 Marvel and
Yeah, are you trying to say that turn 4 Emrakuls aren't fun?
that might be that might be the case.
Yeah, I think the issue here is like this deck is compared to the Pro Tour list that we're running to even things like was it Tigum Scheming, which it's not the name of the card now, but it's like they were super
card.
all in. Like
Yes.
the reasons they fell off at the beginning is because they were so all in, because they didn't have another way to win. These versions now, like if they miss on like Aetherworks Marvel, most of the time they're still just casting like they have a servant
Cast
like
Chandra.
well, they cast
or
like a
whatever.
turn 4 the Gishkana that already has Delirium.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so if that for a lot of decks, that's already hard enough to beat, but that also buys them so much time to just find it. And then this deck is also really good at just casting Emrakuls. Like, it's just really good at casting Emrakul on turn, with a Servant, depending on how your vessels worked. If you hit a Planeswalker, you have 7 types really easily, and then you just cast it on turn 6. Or on turn 5 if you have a Servant. Like, that literally happens.
Yeah.
So, the issue here, like, Aetherworks Marvel itself is, if you're paying attention, there's only one Ulamog on all these lists. They're all on the sideboard. Like, Aetherworks is so good because of Emrakul. So I don't know, is Aetherworks Marvel the card you're upset at, or is it Emrakul the card you're upset at? It feels once again we're just upset at Eldrazi Titans. I'm so glad they get to stick around for ever.
I'm always upset at cards that let you look at the top 6 and then put things into play for free. But
I mean, it's not free. It has a cost. All you have to do is
free.
gain 6 life and get 6 energy.
yeah.
So much energy.
Now, I think these decks are they're just constructed very effectively. Like they really are. Like this plays a real game of Magic even without Aetherworks Marvel, and that's important because those other Marvel decks they didn't. That's why they just died to Spellqueller. You know what I mean?
Right.
This deck still has an issue with Spellqueller, but not nearly as big of an issue when you just cast Ishkanah the next turn.
Right, exactly.
So,
So I just want to touch real quick. So Chris Anderson also went 7-1, or possibly 8-0 in Standard. I'm not sure. It doesn't list the individual. Anyway, he ended up top 8ing the Invitational here, and in Standard he was playing a Teamer Aetherworks, which looking at the list is essentially just the red-green list, but it has Ceremonious Rejection and Negates in the sideboard.
yeah, interestingly enough, that was the bulk of the team list for Card Hoarder. Bao was also Card Hoarder and played a little bit different, but
Yeah.
the most of the team was on Teamer. So
Yep. And then even in the GP, I know we're kind of skipping around a bit, but we're kind of just talking about the Marvel decks. I'm going to pull up Steve Rubin's list because he was playing a teamer version with Whirler Virtuoso. So that kind of is yet another angle to the deck where it's like you're going to have these games where maybe you're able to get a lot of energy, or I guess accumulate a lot of energy over the course of the game, but maybe your Aetherworks Marvel doesn't ever resolve, or you just never find it. Whirler Virtuoso gives you another way to sink your energy into. It could be an alternate win condition in that way. It's a way that you could stall the game out because this deck is pretty good late game. So if you need to buy a couple of turns to hardcast the Emrakul, that's something that'll help you out as well. So I think that's another interesting way to go with it. Another interesting thing about Steve Rubin's list is he's only playing 2 Emrakuls, so he's really.
Well, he went up to he has 2 Ulamog's in the main, which is actually just one of the few lists that's even doing that. Mm-hmm. You had Michael Snyder had 1 Ulamog in the main, but overall Ulamog continues to be relegated to the sideboard. It'll be interesting to see if Ulamog comes back because there's a lot of decks that can just deal with Emrakul right now. Like Panharmonicon, for example, can do that, but.
If they Ulamog your Panharmonicon and Displacer or something like that.
Yeah, no, it literally there are multiple games where I can deal with 4 Emrakuls because they're not really doing very much to me. 4 Ulamogs, I was dead on the first one. So it's interesting to see if especially if Sigarda is the go-to card, if that switches because now you need a card that kills the Sigarda as well. Mm-hmm. And it's important to note that compared to Emrakul, Ulamog is kind of tough to get off the board. Emrakul is immune to instants, sure, but you see a lot more Ruinous Paths showing up.
I mean, even Obnixilis.
Obnixilis, yeah. Stasis Snare still gets rid of the Ulamog. We're Obnixilis is seeing play, or Noxious Gear Hulk, you know what I mean? Guess what? Neither of those kill Ulamog.
Yeah.
So, interesting to see.
Your Gear Hulk does not make me sick. I have Ulamog.
So, I think that's all the different versions. I know we talked about last time. We talked about the black-green versions. We didn't really see that. There were some certainly out there. I believe in the breakdown from the GP, there were some number of them that showed up, but I didn't see any on camera. That seems to have fallen out of favor for the kind of green-red base versions of Aetherworks. So I would say, and Mike, I know you top forward with a sweet deck. I think this was the weekend of Aetherworks decks because we just saw so many.
Oh yeah, I mean, I would agree with that.
Yeah, there were just so many that did well and so many different versions. It's like we still haven't even figured out the best version of it yet. Certainly, Panharmonicon was definitely another breakout list, both with you and Seth Manfield.
No, trust me, so. I know that I am a white boy and I played some funky music. Okay. As did Seth and Pascal. I will say, I think if I could say I've accomplished anything beyond I top 4 at a tournament, I think I don't think Panharmonicon's the best deck in the format, but I think it has. I think this weekend it
has a place.
It went a long way to showing there's some decks that do have a place in the format that can fight against really what we've seen. So, I mean, if you think that Aetherworks is going to be the best deck, I'm telling you, Panharmonicon can fight against it, and I think that alone is enough to be happy compared to our conversation before our break.
Right.
Yeah. It's. I was thinking about this and I watched a decent amount of coverage over the weekend, both the Invitational and the GP, and
I watched a lot of Invitational coverage.
Yeah, I don't think you did.
I did. I watched the matches. I stood there.
Okay, you saw it live. It's. I'll be the first to admit I was totally wrong about Standard. I was pretty much just completely disenchanted with it. I was just like, this is just a horrible format, because all we saw the week before was all black, green, and blue-white flash, and it was actually ridiculous. And now it's just opened up, and it's like, oh wow, there's all these other decks that maybe some of them were kind of just waiting for the right time to break out, but it's a much more diverse and I guess more deeper format than we I think gave it credit for.
So I will take the very middleist road there. having found an outside deck to try and play and literally hand carving my place into the metagame this weekend. You know what I mean? I will still say that the format's still miserable.
I completely agree.
You have to design decks like. I want you to understand that I think there's a lot more room than we thought there was.
Yeah,
I had fun playing this weekend,
right.
But you have to spend so much time in your deck design currently, making sure that your opponent taking your turn isn't that bad. And if you have to think about that as an actual deck design angle, the format is bad. Like
Okay.
that's just my personal opinion.
I'm not saying it's like the best format ever.
No, I
but
know
it's
you're
a lot better than. Oh, hey, there's 2 decks. Cool.
It's more open. I will agree. I
Yeah.
still don't think the format's better. I still think this format it's dominated by, it's still dominated by 2 or 3 cards. You could say, regardless of all the opening up the format has done, you can say it's either open up because these cards or whatever else. But this format is still literally Ishkanah and Emrakul. That's the whole format. Like decks that are either playing it or have to beat it.
Or Gideon.
Sure, Gideon.
Is Gideon the third pillar?
He's a tier down. I'm telling
Yeah?
you, it's Ishkanah and it's Emrakul.
Yeah.
That's the format.
Nice.
So, and I'm saying this is, again, I had a lot of fun this weekend. I enjoyed what I did. I hope that continues to do well. I still wouldn't say, I wouldn't, if I wasn't, because, I wouldn't have gone to Atlanta for an open. You know what I mean? I went for the Invitational. So, I played the open because I was there. I still am not looking for ways to play Standard right now. I'm playing it because I have to.
That's fair.
So and I did well. Like I'm telling you, I did almost as well as you possibly could at an open, and I still would not be actively searching for Standard tournaments.
Yeah, it's just it's something that's interested me. I do want to give a shout out to Brent Delpino. He played Teamer Energy, went at least 7-1 in the format, and was definitely playing like Electrostatic Pummeler combo. So hats off to you, man. That's impressive.
That's pretty nice.
Fun fact: that deck can't beat Panharmonicon ever.
Oh no!
You know what's really cool against that deck? Eldrazi Displacer. That's cool. I'm just gonna tap it. And Drownor Hope. Oh my God, is Drownor Hope good? I put against the deck round 1 of the Open, and I didn't do any testing against it. I was like, I wonder how this matchup goes. And after 2 games, I was like,
poor.
I figured out how that matchup goes.
Yeah, you made that poor person a very sad person. So hats off to you, sir. You were splashing some blue for some ceremonious rejections, and that's very impressed.
That's a pretty important card right now.
Yeah, I completely agree. But
being able to,
I really do like the green red X energy decks. I mean that's just, I like doing stupid amounts of damage to my opponent. So I want it to be good, but meh. I think the only hope they would have against Panharmonicon is probably Bristling Hydra.
Bristling Hydra's okay, and or having a really perfectly timed
Blossoming Defense.
But you have to go all in on it, and if it doesn't go right, and I think that's the issue with it in the format at large. I mean, look at the red green or the Naya energy deck, right? You better kill them, because if not, or one of their planeswalkers is going to kill your guy. It's just going to happen.
Yeah, for sure. So
sad time. Sorry, Morgan.
It's okay.
Deck is sweet though.
Yeah, I mean, I still have a lot of it. So it would be, if I had to play Standard, I would just find the rest of the cards and play it. It still is dirt cheap, comparatively speaking. So,
I'm sorry. Good.
The only thing I wanted to bring up is with Dave's comments. The one thing I want to say, when you take a look at the 7-1 lists, they are Aetherwurst lists, they are Flash lists, or they are black-green lists with some outliers.
Oh, for sure. I mean, those are for sure the top 3 decks, but I mean, we had 2 very dominant decks, and now we have 3 pretty dominant decks, but there is still room for other decks to do well.
Well, I think you're seeing Flash is getting pushed out.
Yeah.
Flash did poorly this weekend in almost all of the major tournaments.
Sure.
Okay. So while we're on Flash, I do want to talk about Jim Davis's list. Is he somewhat... I guess it's not really Flash anymore because it only has 1 Flash card. So Jim Davis is playing
flashcards. Sorry.
He was
trying to memorize.
He was learning
things.
his ABCs.
Yeah. There's 2 because of Archangel on the sideboard. There's still Archangel Anderson on the sideboard.
Yeah, I was just looking at the main deck. So this is essentially a blue-white aggressive deck. The reason why they labeled it as Esper is because it has Scrap Heap Scrounger, which has a black activated ability.
Yeah, you have 4 Concealed Courtyards as your black splash, but mana wise.
Yeah, it is essentially a blue-white aggressive deck, and it's essentially taking the blue-white flash deck, cutting the Avacyn, sticking a couple in the sideboard, and then you're playing a little bit more of an aggressive game. So you have stuff like Toolcraft Exemplars instead, Scrap Heap Scrounger, as we mentioned. So you're able to get on the board a little bit quicker there, maybe, put some pressure on your opponents, and then Spell Queller plays that nice. It's a nice card in that type of strategy, since you can kind of back up your early aggressive starts with some disruption and more beatdown. So
yeah, this is the sort of a tempo aggro deck, very or somewhat Delver-esque even in some ways.
Yeah. So I think this list is interesting. Jib did pretty well at the Invitational playing this deck. Obviously finished in the top 8. And we saw, I'm going to skip around, a version of this also won the Standard Classic. Mm-hmm. So the Star City.
Now, it should be pointed out the Standard Classic was 60 people.
Correct.
Now, I'm not saying the deck isn't good because of that, but I'm saying like you had, how do I word this? The people playing in the Classic were the people who didn't do well in the Open, and the Open was tiny in the first place.
It was the people that didn't do well in the Invitational that also didn't do well in the Open.
That also didn't want to play Modern.
Yeah.
So,
no, I get it.
I see the cascade effect.
It's a very similar list. So this was Lee set, and he was playing. I think the main difference is he was playing Always Watching in the deck over some number of Gideons. It looks like. So he trimmed a couple Gideons, played some Always Watchings, which I do like Always Watching right now in the right deck, but. I think this is another, it's another thing to look at. It's definitely something that I'm interested in since I don't have Avacyns anymore. So it's like I have most of the cards, but I don't know. So that was kind of a new twist to the blue-white archetype.
Yeah. And you know what? This could be where, it's going. Maybe they take some cards from this and like reevaluate what they're doing. But I think Blue-White Flash can still potentially function, and people did play it well to get good records in Standard. So I would agree that I would see it. I could definitely see it becoming less and less, and it still feels like that Standard is definitely like a 3-deck format with the third deck rotating every once in a while. So
I think you can still arguably play what you want in Standard. Just be prepared to have your opponent take as many of your turns as you're taking. I'm sorry, I can't tell you how many of my turns my opponents took this weekend. And again, I did really well. It's just really miserable to play.
Also, the way that your deck works, though, you're more apt to have that happen just because you're kind of a slower deck.
Okay, Blackwing Delirium is more apt to have that happen.
Well, I'm just saying, like, obviously, the longer the games go, your opponent's going to have more opportunities to cast more.
If you're playing against Aetherworks and you play 3 games against Aetherworks, you're almost guaranteed that you will have 3 of your turns across a match taken by your opponent, at least, if not more.
Right, but you mentioned
what deck you're playing.
You mentioned multiple games where like your opponents cast 4
that's not
Emrakul
what I'm talking about. I'm saying I shouldn't have to worry about Mindslaver effects every single game, every round.
I got it.
2 out of the 3 major decks are doing this. One of them literally wants to do it as early as possible. Like I'm telling the Emrakul fatigue is what I'm feeling. I'm sorry, Emmy baby. We talked. You know what I mean? Maybe just go visit your husband for a while. He's time to leave that moon.
Could we say that we want to send Emrakul zip bang straight to the moon?
Emmy baby, don't come to my Christmas tree.
Never.
Don't.
Nope. You're not invited to the party.
No, not for me.
No. Don't bring a white elephant gift, which I imagine due to your size would literally be an elephant.
An actual white elephant if he locks it on?
Correct.
I don't know. Again, maybe I'm just feeling fatigue from this weekend, and I definitely am feeling fatigue from this weekend. But I think that's where my issue with the format is. People say like they hate Marvel, right? It's good. I don't think they would hate Marvel if the things that were coming off Marvel were less busted. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Right. All right. So, do you think Emrakul as a card? I guess casting Emrakul the quote unquote fair way. Are you okay with that? Since it does take a little while to set up.
I would be okay with that if they like. I'm okay with it in general. We saw it in the last format. It tended to be sort of an end game for these decks. I would be more okay with that being the format if I had a way to turn off my opponent's delirium.
Right. I do still think, even though the format has opened up and there are definitely more decks that are viable now, or that's how it looks. I still have the issue with like we still don't have the cards that are good enough to fight against these
Right.
delirium strategies, and that's why you see Ishkanah just dominating.
And we have some things. There's a card, a counterspell that was spoiled that we didn't actually talk about yet. That will fight against Aetherworks a little bit. But I don't know. I think that this form, unless there's something really powerful to deal with Emrakul, I think you're going to continue to see Standard just not be very much fun to play, because
Ooh.
I'm sorry. I don't know. Like we've talked about this like ad nauseum, for a couple of weeks, and like how Standard feels, and like I enjoy playing Standard. I enjoyed what I did this weekend, but I think that like if you're wondering why the Invitational had 400 players in it in Atlanta, the Open had 300. It is the smallest modern Open, and maybe the smallest Open ever.
So modern day Open.
Yeah. Modern time frame, not
modern
format.
Which is Dave did mention that. Yes, I then apparently have top eight the smallest Open and the largest Open. So but like the Standard Classic is 60 people, but the Modern Classic was 150. Now you can point to a number of things. We were in Atlanta over the weekend. The SEC Championship game was Saturday, and that was terrifying. How many people were in the city? There was a Falcons game on Sunday. It's like the city had a lot of things going on as well. The RPTQs were this weekend. But man, it does seem like those numbers should be alarming, and not just like you could say, oh well, maybe it's SCG. It's not just SCG. Those numbers should be alarming. So sad times. Can we talk about one more deck?
Yeah. I was going to ask if there's anything else you want to talk about standard-wise. So.
You like Hasis's deck. He took second in the Open, and I was really sad I didn't get to play against him. Also, a really nice guy. Just a really nice guy. was talking about the finals. He's like, because he was talking to me afterwards. He was like, man, I was kind of hoping to get to play against you. Would have been fun. Probably going to lose now, and he did. And he was like, whatever though. He was the guy who they were talking about this. Like people were talking about the split or whatever else, and it was like, oh, I don't care about money. Can I just get my store credit? He's like, I'm just going to buy cards. I was like, okay, whatever. He's a nice guy, though. He played Bant Aggro, which is, if you remember back to, like week one. Yeah,
week one, I know, was it Card Hoarder?
No, it was Brad Nelson and those guys were on the green-white list. It was like Brad Nelson and Ross Merriam. Like, I played against him in the Open playing the green-white deck. BBD also played the green-white deck.
I thought Chris Anderson.
Nope, they played.
Oh no, they played vehicles. Yeah, there was. Who am I thinking of? Boswell. Andy Boswell was playing Bant.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah, there's some number of them were playing it.
But this is Bant Aggro, which is essentially a Verdurous Gearhulk deck, which is a card that people were really excited about and then sort of disappeared.
People forgot about.
But he's playing 4 Loam Dryad, which is sweet. So he has Loam Dryads, Reflector Mages, Servant of the Conduits, 3-bit Inspectors, Avacens, Gearhulks, Smuggler's Copters, Always Watching. He's got Stasis Snare, 3 Blossoming Defense in the main, and Gideons and lands. He's got a Blue Splash in his lands for the sideboard for Spellquellers and for Tamios. And overall, the deck is pretty interesting. This is sort of like a traditional sort of like those Bant mid-rangey decks where half the creatures just help you cast your other creatures. So hope to draw your really quality spells. But the nice thing is you get some cool interactions with Loam Dryad, with Always Watching, that can attack and then can add mana in the second main.
I was just gonna say that. How about that combo?
Which is nifty. Smuggler's Copter with Always Watching has already been proven to be pretty good. And I even you even see in his mana base he has the one of Lumbering Falls, which I definitely saw him firing out the Lumbering Falls on these are games where you're flooding out, but the Lumbering Falls is a really sweet Verdurous Gearhulk target if you have the mana, because it's I'm just going to sneak this 7/7 down here, and we're going to worry about him later. He does a little hexproof. So, but putting on Avacyn was his most common play. It was flash an Avacyn, then untap, play Verdurous Gearhulk, and hit you for 8 flying. And it was all right, yeah, that's pretty good. Hey, you want to kill my Verdurous Gearhulk? Because I'd like to hit you for 11 flying the next turn. And with the 3... we're going to deal over 20, so we're just there. So it's pretty sweet. And he said he made it to the finals, and he did beat Delirium in the top 4, but could not beat our eventual winner. So it was a cool deck, though.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Anything else for Standard?
Not really. Nothing new. I just wanted to shout out to Matt Severa winning his 3rd GP.
Yeah,
his other 2 wins were team GPs. So it was GP DC and GP Louisville.
It's like I could do this on my own.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive, though. 3 GP wins in 1 year. Just having like 3 GP top 8s in a year is pretty good.
Yeah,
So,
that is quite the accomplishment. So good for him.
Yeah, and he was playing a version of Mardu vehicles that was very close to Li Shitian's. So it was kind of the 4th color splash for Ceremonious Rejection of the sideboard, which I like that card a lot right now. So I like that.
Yeah, for this weekend, I bet. All right, so let's talk about the Modern Classic.
I guess Modern Invitational as well.
Yeah, Modern Invitational as well. So the Classic was won by Dredge, KO Cheer. And then we also know that that's what was Jacob Ball was playing. So Dredge is still very much so quite the deck, as it seems. And, when we really look at it, it's not like it is really changing. This seems to be, at least for the main 60, we don't see too much shifting. We do see a Haunted Dead, and I don't know if that's a new innovation, a new tech in the Classic winning list from Caleb.
That's like a new old tech.
Yeah,
that was in Ross Merriam was playing that card.
Yeah, it's a callback. They're like, we'll give this, we'll give you a shot again, Haunted Dead. We'll throw you back into the ranks. But yeah, this is just what is what's what. One thing I want to know is I wonder if there is a particular reason why they're playing Mana Confluence over City Brass. Does anyone know that? I'm sure there's a reason, but I just don't know. So hopefully someone on Twitter will tweet me and tell me why.
They already own them?
We don't have any like Rishadan port effects, right? Or things that tap your lands. Because like City of Brass can just like if it just gets tapped for any reason, it deals you damage.
That could be it. That could just be for those weird situations.
That Sweet Mind Slaver lock.
Yeah, clearly. I'm not sure, but I would just like to know. Maybe there's just no like upside, so it's just the cheaper card potentially.
Is there any reason the deck that pay 1 life is worse than like deal 1 damage to you for some reason, or better than?
I don't know. These are things that a Dredge aficionado would have to tell us. A modern Dredge aficionado would have to tell us. Let's take a look at some of the better performing modern lists from the.
It's just you're gonna click on it. You're gonna see Burn. You're gonna see Jund, and you're gonna see Amulet Titan. Finish 7-1.
Yeah, that's a deck that.
Remember when people were really upset when that banning happened? We said you could still play your deck. You could still play your deck.
That's very true. And this is Edgar Magales. He's done very well with this list previously.
Yeah, he was featured in I believe the last Modern Open. Yeah, at least 1 round. So he's been playing this for a while. You could tell.
Oh, for sure. So it's not surprising to see him do very, very well with this list that he's quite familiar with. So you can still play Amulet Titan. Maybe not as good as Edgar, but you can still play it.
Yeah, this is a deck that obviously has dramatically fallen off since Summer Bloom was banned. But there is still some power there, and if you're dedicated enough, you could still kind of make it work. It's definitely benefited by not having really any hate pointed at it now, specifically. Now, it's still going to get hurt by things like Blood Moon and stuff like that, but nobody's really gunning for this deck as like one of the top decks in the format any longer. So yeah. You get some percentage points there.
Give a shout out to this sweet Jessica Hager list. I know that every time I see this list, I'm like, that's so cool. But it's only because it's playing Mantis Rider. And I know that I just think that card is awesome.
Card is awesome.
Yeah, this is a list that the Metagame Gurus played at, I believe, the last Modern Open. So I know Jim Davis played this, and I want to say one of the Jessups played it. But yeah, this is like a very streamlined, aggressive deck with a lot of haste creatures. So you get Goblin Guide, Monastery Swift Spear, Storm Chaser Mage, Mantis Rider. It's pretty much all haste creatures except for Snapcaster Mage.
And that card kind of has haste.
Yeah. This is kind of like the throwback aggro deck of like 20 lands, 20 creatures, 20 spells. And then so the spell suite is just 4 bolts, 4 lightning helix, 4 mutagenic growth, 4 vapor snag, 4 Cataxian probe.
This list just looks like a lot of fun. The aggressive player inside me is like, yeah, I like all these things.
Yeah, I'm totally on board with this. If I had Goblin Guides, I would consider playing this this weekend at the
Is Goblin Guides looking, bro?
Just
I just
wait.
want to make sure I put it out there before Dave said anything.
Just wait for Modern Masters 2017. It's got to be in there, right, guys?
For sure.
I don't understand the inability to reprint Goblin Guide. He apparently they sent him on his way and he got lost and they can't find him again.
Gobby.
But yeah, this list was sweet. What else? Do we have anything else?
Burn, which is a pretty shout out to Andrew Jolly. I bet you had a very jolly time burning people to the face.
Yeah, the holly jolly. Almost Christmas.
And then Todd Anderson with John.
It's December, so you can say that.
Yeah.
So there's a list that's not here and it didn't top 8, but I do want to at least mention. And I'm going to butcher his name, but he's actually a writer for legit. John Cavalier.
Cuvier.
Cuvier.
Oh yeah,
Cuvier,
the Affinity deck.
Yeah, I went. You mentioned this, Dave, that he was playing the Affinity deck that had Bomat Couriers and Blood Moons in the main.
In the main deck, yeah.
And I watched his match against Jacob Ball at the end. And he had some rough draws. And Jacob Ball, like game 1 had his one of Dark Blast, like he had it in his hand at game 1. And it sort of dictated the entire match, honestly. But I went and talked to him afterwards, because he took I think 15th. After he lost his win, and I was like, "Hey, so I gotta ask, how was Bomat Courier?" And he looked at me and he goes, "I can't tell you how good that card is." And I was like, "Really?" I said, "Because it's really hard to innovate Affinity." You know what I mean? He says, "Here's how it works." I said, so that works. It's essentially a Memnite. They don't want to waste a lightning bolt on that card because it's not Steel Overseer, it's not Arcbound Ravager, it's not an Inkmoth Nexus. You know what I mean? Like, it's not even a Signal Pest. You know what I mean? He's like, so they have limited removal spells. Just like they're never killing your Memnite. Like, that's the last thing they're going to kill.
Yeah,
right?
you just ignore that thing
until they realize, like by the 4th attack, that all of a sudden it's a legitimate threat. But by that point, you will always have a land up to sacrifice it. He said it was incredible.
Interesting.
So, now he writes for Legit, so if you're interested in that, I would look out. I would assume an article will be forthcoming on Legit MTG about that. But yeah, he said it was like I was waiting to see him be like, yeah, it was pretty good. But he was like, I cannot tell you how good this card was.
That's,
like,
let
me sing you the song of Bomat Courier.
Yeah, man, that's a pretty empathetic, sort of cry out
from a good player.
Yeah,
really
for
player.
someone who you can definitely take what they're saying, legitimately.
Yeah.
So that's impressive.
So, because I was pretty excited, and so I went and talked to him, and he was like, yeah, this is the thing.
Now, I just want to point out that, looking through these lists, we take a look at the 7-1, modern lists, we take a look at the, top 8 lists from the Invitational, we take a look at the lists from the Classic. We have, I think, 1 copy of Infect from across all of those lists.
Yeah, that's crazy. Hey, there's way more copies of Grixis Delver. I'm just saying.
And Infect was all over the
for sure.
Invitational. It
but
really was.
I also want to say that when we take a look at the 7-1 better modern deck lists, there's not that many. So I think in general people lost more in modern than they did in standard, and we kind of see that.
Yeah, that bears out.
Yeah, Korean rise to the top with 2 of the top 8ers, or three of the top 8ers having 7-1 or better standard records. So I just think that people just lost more in modern. So I think there's probably a lot of like
is a format where you fight. There's a lot of infighting between the decks.
Yeah, so there are probably a bunch of like 6-2. Infect lists that we just don't see.
I'm sure.
But yeah, I just wanted to kind of point that out.
I think also he probably didn't have as many people finishing out the tournament.
Yeah.
Because modern, like it
was
went
the tail end.
Yeah, it went standard then modern on day 1, and then day 2 was standard then modern.
Yeah,
so you might have people drop off before they finished, all of the rounds. So that might be another reason.
So yeah, some people just don't necessarily even care about like. I know that I didn't have a chance of like doing very well in the Invitational, but I had a chance like for my last round to go 7-1 with my burn list when I day 2 the Invitational. So it's like some people who just don't care.
Yeah,
but probably just like whatever. I don't.
You could definitely have somebody that like went 4-0 in modern on day 1. But like their standard record was like 2-6.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like,
not good
and they
enough.
just never made it to the end. So that's. I mean, I'm sure there are plenty of lists out there. So that you can still take some information from that. You can see what did well over the full 8 rounds. But a lot of times with these split tournaments, it's hard to.
It's hard.
Really,
the more telling thing is probably the actual Modern Classic, which was distinctly lacking in Infect.
right.
What it lacked in Infect, it made up for in meat hooks, though.
Yeah, it has slivers. Oh man, Bradley George just like playing the little tribe that could do everything. Literally, they together they could do everything. So
Man,
Could-
this
could
is
you
me
say
across
this-
the company deck.
The sideboard is glorious.
It's all slivers.
well, it's
one
Spellskite.
Spellskite.
There's 2 Warping Whale down there at the bottom.
Oh, fair enough. Fair enough.
I still like the 1 Sliver Hive Lord.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, there's that classic clip of like I forget who was playing the deck, but taking their 8th vial up to 5 so they could vial it in.
That was against, wasn't it against Chris Anderson?
I think so. It was something
I
like
thought that was where the image of Chris like with his like hand in his head like came from.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
how else do you react to that?
I feel like you just like you don't even board this in. You're just like playing Silver Hive Lord because your deck needed a mascot. Like,
Right.
Like it's unruly in your bag if there's not a Hive Lord or a Queen nearby. Where it's
Yeah.
like you just hear like the bzz, bzz, bzz,
Yeah,
it's
you
like,
can't-
It's like oh shoot, where's my Hive Lord at?
you can't play Queen. It's
Yeah.
not modern legal, and the other one is
Yeah.
not good enough. It's
Yeah.
like a 7/7 or
Sliver
something.
Legion,
like,
yeah.
Sliver Legion. So you're like, Hive Lord. It has relevant text.
Like really, what you want is just to actually just have the card in your deck box, but not actually in your deck. But you can't do that,
Yeah.
so you're like, I guess I have to register this in my sideboard. But
It's the
it's
Sliver
fine.
tax. It's
Yeah,
the
like
Sliver tax.
you need to have it, so you're just playing with a 14 card sideboard. So
You can get your 8th vial up to 5 and vial this sucker in.
that is a thing that can happen. Yes.
Then all your slivers have indestructible. It's great.
Oh,
How do you lose?
Did you guys want to talk about anything else for modern? Because I had one last thing I wanted.
Let me check because I clicked on the slippers list, so I didn't see anything. Shout out to Ad Nauseam finishing 5th. I like the 9th, 10th, and 11th are just like John. And I feel like that's hashtag John life. It's like grinded out all my games, got 9th place. John.
Yeah, going to that sweet X4. So we saw Todd Stevens made a pretty good run in the Invitational and qualified himself for the Players' Championship this weekend. So congrats to him.
Yep.
And he was playing his patented red-white prison deck, or Sun and Moon as some people call it. And I just got to tell you, if you like playing that deck, you're a bad person.
Wow.
Like, there was definitely there was a game where he had like Rest in Peace, Blood Moon, Chalice of the Void. Like it was just like the whole, just every lock card on the board, and like his opponent just couldn't do anything. I think it was against. I think that particular game. I think he has Stony Silence in play also, and it was against Lantern Control. So it's just like I hate both of these decks. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like both of these decks are like you can't play Magic.
Yes, that is very true. And not being able to play Magic, especially after paying like $40 to play Magic, is very frustrating. You're like, why do I have to not play Magic for 50 minutes? Like, this is aptly named. It is a prison deck. So yes, I feel like I am in prison. Congratulations, you have won.
Dun
But anyway,
dun 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 dun.
I'm sure Todd Stevens is a great guy, but
No, you actually said he's a
deep
bad person.
down,
I need
deep
you to
down.
know,
Yeah,
You
bad
heard it
person.
here first. Dave called Todd Stevens a bad person. If when the turf war invariably does happen, and you'll know where the beef first started. It's right
Correct.
here.
When Todd Stevens' lawyers are coming after us with
I was
libel
hoping this was
claims.
going to be like an old school like rap battle style. Like I want some like Jay-Z Nas stuff going on here.
I mean,
Like,
maybe I don't know how down Todd Stevens is.
I mean, Dave is white bread as they come, so I don't know what to tell you on that one.
I'm not saying Dave was going to win.
Wow, way to have my back.
He's only my hype man.
No, I don't know. I have no idea how well Todd Stevens can spit fire. So
Spitverse.
yeah, maybe it's exceptionally well.
Like it's just like Street Fighter style, just spitting hot fire.
Yeah, Yoga Flame, man.
Yoga Flame.
Anyway,
All right, it's a lot of decks.
hey, we don't have to talk about Legacy. How great is that? Get wrecked, Legacy players.
We kind of did by talking about the GP, but not the actual GP.
Yeah, but I mean, like, there wasn't like a Legacy Classic that they're like, this person won, congratulations.
To be
Like,
fair, the Legacy Classic might have had more than 60 players.
this is very true. This is an accurate statement. So, but yeah, So let's go ahead and close out the show, move into the wrap up. So over the weekend again, we have those great Comic Town events. We have the Last Chance qualifiers on Saturday. There's 3 of them. So pick your format, either standard or modern. Pick your time. Go in, queue for the finals that are going to be on Sunday. And there's also going to be a modern format IQ on Sunday as well. And then we also have GP Milwaukee, which is going to be limited. So not too much on that for us. We will mainly be probably, I imagine, doing tournament report stuff for how the finals went.
Hopefully it's a fun story.
It better be.
Not a terrible.
Yeah, I hope my Sunday isn't just like I was back home by 2:00.
Yeah, that'd be sad. No, you would just go to the IQ maybe, right? You're already there. Why not? Okay, you just go home. I understand.
There you go. You did it. You figured it out.
I understand. So
I love Comic Town. I don't love IQs.
I understand. So that is all the awesome stuff happening over the weekend and pretty much everything for us this week. If you want, you can follow us on Twitter. We are at @YourEndStep, or just do a search for Your End Step. We're also on Facebook at Facebook.com/@YourEndStep. And while you're on Facebook, check out Comic Town Gaming Center. You can do a quick search for them and they'll pop right up. You can also email us at yourendstep@gmail.com, and then we also have an iTunes section where you can download our show, so you can do a quick search on iTunes for us and leave us a review if you'd like. It really helps us out. We're also on the Google Play Store, and then on MTGcast. So while you're at MTGcast downloading our show, check out some of the other wonderful shows that we are all a part of in the great circle of life that is the MTG Podcast Network.
The circle. I will say.
So every time there's a new podcast that comes out, we go to Pride Rock and they lift it up and we all bow. We all had our turn, so it's just a show of respect.
Yeah, and then we crack some fruit and smear the fruit on the
correct.
podcast's forehead.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
All right, well, fair enough.
And then one of the podcasts dies. And then the new podcast gets exiled, meets up with 2 other podcasts that aren't actually about magic, but then they raise that podcast and they come back and then they kill their uncle. I don't know.
Yeah, just make sure you don't go to the podcast graveyard. It is
that.
It is not cool. There's a lot of like weird like Hitler hyenas there for some reason.
Yeah,
so it's like oh man, I wonder what happened to what was it what was the cast like Bump in the Night or whatever. No, that one's still going. What was the one that was most recently, whatever. You go there like, I want to go pay my...
A-team?
The A-team,
yeah. Sure, like the A-team. I want to go pay my respects to the A-team. Like, oh man, what is this? What are these hyenas doing? Like, Nazi salutes. That's terrifying for children.
It's true. It's not very good. No one likes that. The internet's a scary place in general, so...
There was a Disney movie.
Well, yeah.
Wait, I'm confused what we're talking about now. Hamlet?
Yeah, I think. But yeah, also, there are some things in the Disney vault that need to stay in the vault. That is very true.
Anyways, I will say I did a bunch of people who asked questions about Panharmonicon, and while you may want to ask Seth Manfield, I'm more likely to respond.
Ooh, get wrecked, Seth Manfield.
Hey, he's
shots fired.
He's an important person. As far as magic goes, I'm less important. So
so you just you have more free time.
That's fair. I guess I get more personal excitement out of oh, you want to ask me?
That's true.
But I will say, if you seriously have any questions, I answered a ton over the weekend, especially spelling out combo stuff for people and things like that. So, and I also have the list posted there on our Twitter feed as well.
Yeah.
So which you can also find on Star City and MTG Goldfish and that sort of thing. But
very, very true.
I also have it laid out for the Cyto's Decklist Challenge. So.
But again, yeah, that's pretty much everything for this week of At Your End Step. I didn't know the holidays are coming up, so we may have some. I don't know when we're taking our next break, but we usually take one closer to Christmas, and so we'll guys let you know when
Christmas being on a Sunday, followed directly by New Year's that next week. That seems like a week that you probably shouldn't expect a lot of things happening at Your End Step.
Yes, that's very true. So
we're gonna cast next week, and then the following week we would have Players Championship stuff to talk about.
Yeah,
so we have a couple weeks anyway.
Yeah, that's everything for this week, guys, and we'll catch you later.